So yeah, a little bit about me. Partly because friends and people I've spoken with said, you never say anything about yourself, Ian. So particularly anything other than just 5G, you know, so we like to see something. So that's a bit of me, a bit of my life, okay? So now you know. So I want to show you if this works. Yeah, switch it on, Ian, helps. I want to show you a few quotes. Now these are quotes from the industry. And the reason I'm showing you them is you need to know and understand what the industry is saying. It's not me. And I've got some leaflets which I'll hand out and then afterwards, which will give you all the links to all these quotes and other things that I've got. So you needn't take notes or anything like that. You can have those links. Okay. So this is Ericsson. Ericsson is the biggest manufacturer of all the equipment that's going up around the country. You know, the big masts, the cabinets at the bottom, you've seen them all, yeah? They're the biggest manufacturer. And this is what they're saying they're going to be doing for us. This is what they want to do. Virtualize all parts of our life. Have you asked for that? You know, that's why these quotes that we get from an article, it's actually an article on 6G, are really important because they tell us an awful lot. And this one also tells us a lot. This was in a planning application, and there are lots of applications from this company, Clark Telecom. They act generally on behalf of the other of the telecom companies that actually provide the service, like Signal, which is 3, of course, Virgin Media and O2 are combining, EE, and what's the other one? Vodafone. Vodafone's the other one. Vodafone and 3, incidentally, are in negotiations to merge. Now, there's a lot of controversy about it in the industry and also within the Monopolies Commission and people like that. The betting at the moment is no better than it succeeding 50-50. So they may be forced to stay separate. We don't know yet. But you notice this. That red word is the most important one. There's an agenda. Yeah. Is that a conspiracy? Is it the same as a conspiracy? So who asked you about that agenda? Does anybody know what the agenda is? And they don't stop there. They go on to tell us a bit more. It's going to be about centralised control. And they don't tell you what they're going to put on that street furniture. So that's what they're telling you. And they don't stop there either. In the same planning application, they say this, they add this. They're telling you that 5G is just the basic start. That's the basic. You know, I stress that, really. I really stress that because we're thinking that 5G is really, really super duper, high, very fast, quick response time. You know, it's going to do everything we want. And they're saying this is the basic technology. Makes you wonder what else is coming, doesn't it? Maybe we'll see a little bit of that later. But the good thing is this last bit here. If we don't get 5G on, then we might not be able to do everything we want to do. Like what Ericsson was saying on that very first slide, for example. Virtualize all parts of your life. So that's why I've spent the last 2 years fighting planning applications for masts to see if we can stop them going down. And we actually are having success in some places. It's very variable across the country. In Barrow-in-Furness, they're passing just about everything. In Birmingham, they're refusing about 70-75%, and some places. So there's a huge difference in what's happening around the country. It's super fast, very high response time. It's all about autonomous vehicles, particularly cars, and so on. It's only, they tell you it's a short range though. That's a bit of a problem. And that's why we've got to put lots and lots of masts all over the place. That's what we've been told by our councils and all the stuff. But if we have a look at this document from Nokia, they give you a little bit more of a different picture. Look at that bottom right there. We can service thousands of customers over hundreds of square miles with one 5G tower. One 5G tower. Why are they not telling you that? That's because that's at the low frequencies. You maybe can't see this, but these are what they call the low bands. These are the frequencies that overlap with the frequencies that 3G and 4G are already using. And they go up to about 4 gigahertz. Don't worry about the number. But as you see at the top, it goes up to 24 gigahertz. So it's a lot higher frequency. The higher the frequency, the faster, the more capacity there is, but the shorter the range. But even what we're being told, you see, Nokia says in some cases it's less than a mile. Now, a mile is a pretty reasonable distance, isn't it, for a signal? Anyway, you know, if you had to put them every mile, it wouldn't be maybe too bad. And they say it is susceptible. That's true. So the argument is, where do we pitch that? And one of the common, incidentally, there's very little 5G going around at the moment in the public domain in this country. So if you see your phone and it says 5G on it, it's 5G and 4G working together. There might be a little bit of 5G in it. Remember, the symbols you see on your mobile phone, they're just symbols. You could turn anything into any symbol. You could put a picture of a bunny rabbit if you wanted to, that meant 5G. You could choose what you put on it. It's just a display. So this is really interesting. And then we're seeing this from our government. These are the other things. And if we look at the real words, whose progress are we talking about here? You know, what are they meaning? I've no clue what augmented reality navigation means. I understand every separate word, but I don't understand the three words when they're linked together in that order. I've no idea. But if you've got any friends, relatives who drive buses or taxis, tell them the government wants them out of a job, because that's basically what that means. So you know, hopefully this will get some of those bus drivers and taxi drivers on our side. We'll talk about how they work in a minute. And this is the other thing they're taking. They're moving step by step, you see. With all that stuff that we've just seen, this is the next step. Low traffic neighbourhoods. Has Tisbury got a low traffic neighbourhood? It's all a little bit small, maybe. It is a 15-minute city, isn't it? 15-minute zone. But it's all driven by this or this. Anybody heard of absolute zero? Yeah?
It's on the Kelvin scale.
Yeah. Yeah, the paper was written a couple of years, well, 3 or 4 years ago actually, by 5 universities, and it is unbelievable. Every paragraph in it, I say, oh no, you know. I mean, what do we? I'm sure if I say to you that they take, in order to make plants grow better in greenhouses, they actually put carbon dioxide inside. Now, how dumb is that? You know? Talk about no joined up thinking. But this is what we have to argue against. This is the bit of net zero that I overlap with Sandy on. She'll go into that a lot more this afternoon, I'm sure. But this, just to give you an example, this was what Paris designed as their first idea of a 15-minute zone. I thought it was a bit weird that they go in for circles, because you've either got to overlap an awful lot of 2 zones, haven't you? Or you're going to have a lot of gaps in the middle. It doesn't really work with circles. Did I get? No, I've one from Leeds where they went into hexagons, and which actually fit together. It makes certain sense if you put your mind in the opposite direction, if you like. It's a good idea. So hexagons are not a bad idea. Interestingly enough, there was a book written by E.M. Forster in 1909, and the rooms in which it's called The Machine Stopped. And And it's only a very short book. It's worth reading. And the woman in there, the main character in there, is sitting alone, locked in a hexagonal room. Now, I don't know if Leeds read that book before they designed their hexagonal, divided up smart city. But, you know, this is really what we're getting to at the moment. It's all about this. And if you don't believe me, just listen to what this guy says in this link. He's been studying in a university all the, can I use the word propaganda in this audience?
Yeah.
All the news and things, how they are actually manipulating all the data. Shoshona Zuboff is also a really good author. She wrote a book called Surveillance Capitalism. She's got lots of YouTube videos where she's doing interviews and things. Put that name into YouTube or anywhere like that, and you'll get lots of. She's a really good speaker. Well, they both are actually, but I was really impressed with the way Shoshona answers the questions. She doesn't skirt around it like MPs and other people do. She answers the questions directly. She's really very good. Very impressed. The book's about this thick, but if you can get hold of it, it's really worth a read. She's not the only one working in the surveillance capitalism topic, but she is one of the first and probably still one of the best. So how's it all going to work? Like this, isn't it? Technology and industrialization to save the planet and go green. Good luck with that. And this is what we've set up, all this stuff. Now, when I first did this slide some years ago, that said about 20,000. Then I had to change it to go up to 100,000. These are all the satellites. And now they're looking to introduce up to 1 million satellites. And how green is your satellite is the question to ask. You know, wasn't it yesterday, wasn't it, Mr. Musk, or was it the day before? Their satellite launching system lasted 8 minutes this time. The previous time it lasted 4 minutes. They actually managed to get the rocket separated from the takeoff boosters, didn't they, in this time? So the weirdest thing was when I actually saw on a video an announcement from Rwanda, the minister of whatever it is in Rwanda, saying, we are going to launch 300,000 satellites. Rwanda, I thought. Where are they? It turns out it's a French company that's doing it. And he's going to launch another 300,000 from France. Or for France, whatever word you can possibly use for that. So 1 million. These are low Earth satellites. Low Earth orbit satellites. So about 200-300 kilometres up there. You know, you've got other ones that are higher as well. So, I mean, you can see, I mean, if we go back 300 years, you know, none of that would be here. So the change to the Earth is absolutely enormous. And the change in its effects on us are absolutely enormous. And not just us, animals, wildlife, and all sorts of things. But we're not really going there today. Anybody know what these are?
Oh, doorbells.
No. It's a surveillance system. That's what it is. It's a surveillance system which you are buying, paying money for. They're taking your data and then they're selling it on to somebody else. And you notice here it says, we can give you a history. That's how we know it's a surveillance system. If it can give me a history, it's storing data, capturing data. The range of these is about 15 meters, and in audio terms, it's 15 meters in a sphere around it. So anybody, if you're closer than 15 meters to the pavement, for example, in your house, and you've got one on your front door, everybody who walks by is talking to their children, their partner, whatever, their friends, is going to be recorded. There is an element of data protection in this as well, of course. And somebody was fined about £100,000 2 or 3 years ago for putting 2 of these pointing at his neighbour's garden. And she took him to court. and won a court case. Down here, I've put that over there. It says that this gives you complete control. But I don't think it's you that they're giving complete control to. Where's that data going? It's going up on the cloud. Now, doesn't that sound lovely and cuddly? We put it on the cloud. Your dreams are in the cloud, aren't they? Yeah, it's not that cloud. They're all computers all around the world. Big computers. And what do big computers run on?
Electricity.
Electricity, yeah. So that's every single device that we start using uses electricity. Now, whether you have to charge a battery for that or whether it's using mains power direct, they're all using. So the more devices we get, the more electricity we're going to use. And then the council says to me, Ian, just turn your heating down a bit and put a pulley on it, will you, over winter? And yet they're putting these things out which are going to do that. So that's that. And these are all surveillance systems as well. A Fitbit on your wrist. And that's even worse because it's actually radiating your blood as it flows through your pulse. So not only is it capturing your data, it's also slowly killing you. You may disagree with that. That's okay. We can discuss it later because we're not covering health on this particular one. Fitbits, your smartwatch, and they all have a disadvantage. I was in a supermarket queue. Somebody didn't have enough change, so I had to walk around the guy in front of me and give him some change. And he said, I can't do that because I've got a smartwatch on to pay. So watch it. And I'll go through how they track you sometimes. But we can be tracked even without smartwatch. Don't worry about it. Smart speakers, again, always listening to you, and so on. And these pieces of software as well. And going back to that Nokia paper, this was another thing they said. Why do they want it? Look at the wording. It's really important in some of these documents that we focus on the words that whoever it is who's written it, the government or the company, uses. And that tells me that we're actually trying to look through walls and windows, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. That wording, that tells you an awful lot. And why do they want to look in your... And in America, they're doing it like this. Just have a look at what Neil Rademacher there says about this. So this is systems that are demonstrably meant to penetrate into your homes. And they're going to do this with 5G. Primarily. 4G is also important, and 4G is certainly dangerous in many, many ways. But the 5G element is adding on to what they've already got. They won't need a camera. The 5G signals can do exactly what a camera can do. So you won't have anywhere in your home that you can be private if this thing rolls out. Check out Amazon Sidewalk. It's mostly it's being rolled out across America and I think Canada to some extent at the moment. I think it's not over here yet. Fortunately, in some of those ways we follow behind. So, how's it going to work? It's going to work. This is the number one requirement. And you probably don't remember. Do you remember a politician called Tony Blair? No. Tony Blair was talking about it when he first got elected way back in 97, was it? Am I right? Yeah, about that time. And he's still talking about it now. That's one of the reasons they keep pushing it, because this is needed. Look at all these things around there. And a lot of the images from now on in the talk come from the World Economic Forum website or a company that's working with the World Economic Forum. Everybody familiar with World Economic Forum? Yeah. On some level or another. Yeah. So you can see all these things. We're going to vote. Whoops, hang on. I'll turn it off. There we go. Voting and benefits all going to be controlled through your digital identity. And products, travel and mobility. We'll look a bit at that. I've got an example I want to go through about travel and mobility in a minute, just to show how it works. So this, I know you can't read this probably very, very clearly, but it just shows you how complicated and how many diagrams and how many brains they're putting into these things. It talks about siloed customer interactions. That means the way we're living at the moment, it's, you know, one company is not connected to another company. But the good thing is we can make it collaborative, a collaborative ecosystem. And you'll notice, what I noticed particularly about this document is that on the left, everything is negative. This is us now, and everything is negative, phrased negatively. It's limited opportunities to meaningfully use digital identity. And on this side, it's all great. It's a high level of value made possible through the operability across domains. I mean, yeah, ignore the flashy, you know, sort of the language that all these businesses use. I was a civil servant for 17 years and working with some of the, that's when I cut my teeth on IT, working with different government departments, and they use this type of language. You know, and when the consulting companies come in, they use this type of language as well. It makes you think it's so smart and so swanky. Hey, Mark, come in, Mark, if you want to. Yeah, and so that's how they're going to do it. And you know, they do admit it's not always that easy. It is a bit complex to do this, but we're going to do it anyway. And again, you know, notice that we've got standards at the bottom. Attribute collection. What's an attribute? Female. Male. Not much hair. You know, blue eyes. Works in so and so. That's an attribute. Anything you can think about a person. But I mean, did you notice a couple of slides back when we looked at that? It's not just about people. It's about something called entities. Which could be anything. So there's going to be everything that we've got, like trees. There'll be a digital picture somewhere of every tree, every house, every car. All these things are going to have digital identities and devices and things. It's those entities and things which really make me a little bit worried. I hope they make you a little bit. Ask them, what are they? What do they mean, these things? You've got to protect it, though. I mean, that's you know, that tells me that there's something missing somewhere. You've got to protect it. And I like the fact that they've used a human being in that one. You've not seen any human beings in any of the previous slides on that. Now you see a human being who's nicking your data. We won't do that, of course. You know, through all the data on there is controllable by you and absolutely secure. So I want to look at two scenarios now. The first one is called social and emotional learning, and it appears with a nice, cute little cartoon image of a lovely little girl with some wonderful, wonderful words wrapped around her. And they all sound absolutely magnificent. One thing struck me about this picture. You notice the way she's leaning off. I did an experiment last night when I was fiddling with the slides, and I turned it round so that she was vertical. It completely changes the feeling of that picture, makes it much more aggressive in a sense. To do it properly, I'd have to reorient the box, and I'm no good at graphics at all. If anybody wants to take on the challenge of doing that and giving me one where she's completely upright, I'll accept your offer. So what is it about? Because all those things are wonderful, but how are they going to be done? The one way they are not going to be done is with a teacher standing in front of a class with a physical book and you writing on tables. It's all going to be done through your brain, often directly. Now, there's one of the links on the piece of paper that I'll give out later is to a video in Davos. It was made in Davos, and the speaker is talking about how with the software that they've got now and a band around each person's head, they can actually in an office monitor everything you're doing, monitor whether you're paying attention, whether you're working hard, whether you're eyeing up the bloke or the woman on the other desk and think, that's nice, whatever, and can give you a little stimulation as well. I think it's probably, and you can take that band home and they can do it whilst you're at home as well. So that's the way it's going to be done, and it basically it's cradle to grave monitoring. Because they're starting with the babies right the way through. Maybe it will involve a chip being implanted as well at some stage, but it doesn't necessarily need chips. Won't necessarily. And this is the bit that really hit me. If a child does a good test, a spelling test or something, or somebody gets an A+ in their A-level mathematics, then this is noted, it's recorded. And then what they do, these mega elite, as we call them, investors, bet on it. They bet on how that child or that adult is going to achieve, where they're going to go next. Now, I'm not making it up. I did read this on the World Economic Forum, I promise you. So they're actually make an investment into what that person, what that individual is going to do. So millions of little bets. And they probably won't be human-made bets because there's a system called Aladdin at the moment which does all the trades, not something like 90% of the trades, the financial trades in the world are done through this Aladdin system. And it can buy shares at very short notice, and it can sell them 5 seconds later and then buy more shares. That's how quick it works. Humans cannot keep up with those systems now in terms of their own investments. We haven't got a chance against a system like that. And the negative, if you like, is if they hear you talking to your children or at home, and they can say, okay, what are they doing? AI will be listening to keywords. It won't involve any people on the other end, and they can say, point out these are feeding misinformation and disinformation to their child. I think we need to go and take the child away, child abuse. So it's monitoring all sides of the equation, and this slide was from Aman Jabi, who does some really good talks on this surveillance and stuff. And this would be a game table which can change what it displays depending on the attitudes and actually the mental and through the eyes and things of the children playing it, to manipulate the children. So it's not just passive monitoring, it's actually making changes, making us act in other ways. It's one step more than PR, isn't it? And advertising, which is bad enough. And it looks great. Again, they find all the right, nice, cuddly, warm words, don't they? I mean, I'm not sure that's up there. Where did this depression in children come from? When I was a kid, running around the fields and going out all day with my mates, when I was even before I was even 10, we'd go across the fields near the town in Leicestershire where I was growing up, and I can never, in all my early years until quite recently, I've never heard of children getting depressed. What's happening to our society? What is happening? The other scenario I wanted to look at, because it probably involves us more now as we're going through, is travel vision of the future. You're really going to like this one, because this is the idea. I know you can't read it at the moment, but this is this is the idea. So as I couldn't change that slide easily, so I put all the explanations up there. So this is your travel experience. And the first thing, of course, is, are you a trusted traveller? Okay, that's your digital identity. So if you're not, you can't even go on a holiday, where you can't even think about getting on a train or a plane to go anywhere. You just have to walk. So that's the first thing, isn't it? And skip through these quickly. You know, it verifies your eligibility. That's what your digital ID is using for. Are you allowed to go? And it will say, okay, you want to go to Rwanda, let's say, or India, as I might. And they say, well, no, the Indian government's not letting you in anymore. You know, so it can be done right at the beginning because you've got that digital identity. See how important digital identity is in this whole process. Pre-vetting. So if you're going to a different country, they can pre-vet you before you even get there, before you even get on the train, before you get on the aeroplane to go. So, and every single country that you want to go to will be doing that. And then, you know, there's all this tracking with this cutely named concierge service, you know. So whether you go into a hotel, they'll know exactly who you are the minute you walk in. Facial recognition camera on the door, and the computer in front of the receptionist will say, Mr. Jarvis coming in. He's a bit dodgy, but he's okay, really. Yeah? And it's going to track purchases. And then we go on and we've got biometrics. And that, yet again, it will confirm it. So when you're going through any security system, if you've got all your digital ID and you're a trusted traveller and you're okay, you'll just go straight through. Boom. Easy. But if you're not, you'll be pulled aside. Yeah? Pulled aside. And then they'll know everything about you as you go through. And of course, when you come back, there's a record of everything you bought on the cloud. And so as soon as you come in, you won't even have a chance to avoid VAT or anything, or contraband. You know? It just won't be possible. You won't be able to refuse it. So that's international travel. I wanted to look at it a little bit more locally as well, though, and I did this partly for my own fun, if you like. I thought, okay, you're going to drive tomorrow from Wolverhampton. Yeah, I know it doesn't sound very nice. Wolverhampton's actually quite a nice city. I'm quite near the grass. So lovely people there. Funny accents, but lovely people. And going down to Tisbury. So what would a journey with AI around the place look like for me coming here yesterday? Well, I didn't drive here yesterday. I stopped at Eric. Is that where you arrived yet? No. Okay, so where do we go? Okay, first of all, I leave the house. A camera puts a timestamp on my digital ID. Okay, he's going somewhere today. I hop in the car. I have to open the gate. The gate, I live in a small Victorian converted flats thing. And I have to open the gate using my smartphone. And the number of times I have got downstairs, because usually I wouldn't take my phone with me if I'm going shopping or something like that, which I do occasionally. I have to walk back up and get my phone again to do that. So yeah, I leave the front door. It's timestamped. I need some petrol, so we've got the automatic number plate recognition as I pull into the petrol station. That will be recorded. There's facial recognition at the pump, and you know, I insist on using cash, so there's facial recognition on the kiosk as well when I go in. So if I pay at the pump, that facial recognition links to my credit card or debit card that I'm using to pay, of course. But even if I go in and pay with cash, you know, the counter says, which pump number are you at? I say 13, audio recording. He puts the data in. They know I've paid that money for that petrol. Doesn't matter that I'm paying cash to try and get away from the system. It's still recordable and recorded. So then I go off and go around the ring road, down the A4 123, and it's all the time it's tracking me. You know, there'll be stamps maybe at every major junction. There'll be cameras saying, okay, whatever car number I've got, speed. Is he speeding? Where's he going? Then I get on the M5 rather, chuckle down the M5. Again, I'm being checked as I go down because there's a click every now and again. Those cameras are not just about speed. They can check, track you and put an item on your digital identity. So all these things are adding to your digital identity. Nobody's looking at them. They're just being added for the record. I go in the motorway services, tracked, time-stamped. I walk in through the doorway. I go to the toilet. Oh, he's gone to the toilet. You know, no, they keep a record of my bladder. Potentially. Maybe I'll buy a cup of coffee, cup of tea, sandwich, return to the car. And now I decide I need to meditate, so I'm going to sit there. So they know I'm in the car because it's been seen. I'm sitting in my car, nothing is happening. What's going on in that car? So they might send a security alert. You know, the AI system would say he went in there, he's still in the car park, sitting in his car. So it got all those things, and then the journey continues like that. And you get the picture, yeah. And this is what the AI computers are doing. Of course, they've got all these things, petrol, and if I'm monitoring my mood and alertness in the car because of the cameras in my car, looking at my eyes, monitoring my reactions, what music am I playing in the car. I tend to listen to Radio 3 a lot of the time, but when I'm in the car. Yesterday I was listening to Radio 4, and actually I heard there was an interesting talk on Woman's Time. You know, Saturdays they have a Woman's Hour, clips from the previous week, yeah? They were talking about the effects of AI and porn. And whether it's a good thing, a bad thing, or an indifferent thing. And it was actually quite an interesting talk. If you get a chance, do a listen again thing and have a listen to it. But we might talk about that later. So that's my journey. And it's sitting there somewhere in the cloud forever. Are they going to wipe it when I die? I don't know. Be interesting to ask, wouldn't it? And of course, wherever you go in these destinations that you're making on international travel, you've got to have your smartphone and take a picture of the Eiffel Tower or whatever it is. It's a better experience than actually going up the Eiffel Tower, isn't it? Yeah, that's what they'll be telling you probably. So, and notice when they said that, those travel apps, 2016, a long time ago. So, where are we going? Let's take a look at artificial intelligence, shall we? Just a little bit. I'm not an expert on artificial intelligence yet, but I'm learning rapidly more and more about it every day. And I've been really interested in what I found in the last week or so. And there's also something called intelligence augmentation. Now, we'll go on to AI first, and then we'll come on to the IA afterwards. There's two types of AI. One that's called weak AI, which is for things like games of chess, where there's a clear boundary of the universe of questions, if you like, that it can. It's got certain limited things that it's trying to do. You know, if it's playing chess, it can't play Go, for example. If it's playing Go, it can't make a cup of tea. Those sorts of things, even with a robot. There is a good thing about human beings. We've got brain and body interjoined, interconnected. That's our big strength over AI. AI is only the brain bit, if you like, and in order to do anything, we have to build it a body that it can then control, which we call a robot. So that's weak AI, task specific, playing a game. And did you know that every board game, I can't give you a full list of them, every board game in the world champion is an AI computer system. Every single one. Chess, the Kasparov, wasn't it, was defeated by I think it was the IBM's system called Watson, quite a few decades ago. The Go world champion, that's relatively recent. I believe he had a nervous breakdown after losing to a computer. He couldn't cope with the indignity or whatever it was. So yeah, but that's what they call weak AI, because it's bounded. The universe, if you like, of we used to have this phrase in maths, universe of discussion. That's it. And one of the Greek philosophers always said, you've got to agree before you have a discussion or an argument. You've got to discuss what the universe, what the limits are of this argument, this discussion. Strong or general AI is basically they want to mimic us, so it can do everything. And the military, I mean, I can see it without even thinking that military would really want to do this. America, they're testing AI on their F-16 fighter jets. There was, at the moment, it's got in trial, and they're using a human controller or a supporter, what you might say. And in one of the trials that they were running, the AI system, if it had been a real life situation, the AI system would have killed that pilot, because he was getting in the way of them making a decision and scoring more points. So if you give an AI system that in order to win, whatever win means to an AI system, you've got to score more points. It will do whatever is necessary. So if you said to an AI system, okay, I want net zero or absolute zero in the quickest way possible, it would wipe out humanity, wipe out plants, wipe out animals, job done. So unintended consequences is really important, isn't it? So the problem with the latter and the strong, and it's causing them a lot of problems in developing this stuff, is what they call combinatorial explosion, Ian. And this is because there's so many possibilities that those combinations increase binomially, increase exponentially. So that's the biggest problem. And again, even with what we've got at the moment, things like ChatGPT, they are using so much data and needing to store so much data that it's becoming a real problem. You know, and the scientists who are working in those areas are having to find ways and ways to reduce the data, or to store the data, or different hardware to store the data. It's becoming a really serious issue with them. And this is always a question. We're still arguing about these things. Is it intelligence? What's intelligence? Okay, it can make a move in Go that nobody else has ever seen before. But is that intelligence, or is it just that it was able to scan through so many more moves than a human brain can do in such a short time? And nobody's actually scanned all the necessary data to do it. Which is it? Is it conscious? Mo Gawdat thinks they are conscious. And he talks about treating it like your children. So you can put bias into it. So if I want it to be, respond to me with the equivalent of AI hugs, for example, then I will make sure that whenever I'm being listened to by the AI system, that's the sort of thing I'm doing. I'm speaking nicely to everybody. I'm not telling my children off. I'm saying, hey, that's really great, whatever it might be. If I want it to be a psychopath, I'd play Kissinger's speeches to it, for example. You get the point. There is a certain way we can change it. Is it thinking? I don't know. Is it just data collection? It certainly is data collection, but is it just data collection? At the moment, we're arguing about that a lot. I'm not a practicing scientist at the moment, so I don't know. But the more I read about this, the more people are discussing it and deciding whereabouts is it going. Where does GPT? Do you know what GPT stands for? Now I've got to remember. Generational pre-trained transformers. I forgot what the G stands for now. Isn't that daft? Generative. Thank you. Generative pre-trained transformer. That's what it stands for. Because it's trained because they give it lots and lots of data. So in the beginning, when they were first training chess programs to play chess, they would show it lots and lots and lots and lots, millions of different games of chess. And the first time that it started with something like chess, it took about 6 months before it could play a beginner level. And then it went on, and the next month it was playing at serious level. And then a month later, it could beat the grandmasters. That's the acceleration of the learning process and building up the knowledge, or what do you want to call it, with these software programs. What's intelligence augmentation then?
Sorry, can I throw something in? You know about Cliff High?
Cliff what?
Cliff High. He's an expert in computers.
Okay.
Yeah. He says they'll never replace the human being, the artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I think I agree with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're making a damn good try. I mean, in a sense, it's not about that, is it? It's about what they can do with it to make us do what they want to do, I think. But let's talk about it later, otherwise we'll get on a long ride. And this is the opposite. It's about enhancing your brain. So how are they going to enhance your brain? And of course, enhance is what the person doing the enhancement defines it as, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. Is it transhuman? They might put in chips in your brain. They might do it directly, like that video in Davos I was telling you about. Do watch that. Do watch it, please. But what's transhuman anyway? You could argue that vaccinations are transhuman because you're putting a vaccination into a person who's perfectly healthy in order to change the working of their body. Contraceptives, the same, the coil particularly, could be regarded as a bit of transhumanism. So where's the grey line between those bits that are okay and other bits that maybe are not okay? And there is this thing, digital body shop, yeah. There's an idea, and I think it's in practice as well, 3D printing of some of the simpler organs in our body, and then put in some cells from the person who needs a new bladder, for example, and it creates a new AI-created bladder for that person. So, maybe it solves an awful lot of problems. It's only the simpler organs at the moment that they can do this with, but they are looking to do digital immortality. So the whole of me that is non-physical is going to be loaded up somewhere and there forever. For why? I don't know. And again, who's going to be doing this? There's this thing called the Cornerstone Project. I think it's quite new at the moment. I don't think they've got very far with it. And all I see on the internet is the sort of flashy, pictures and things, and showing me what it's going to look like. But it's all imagination and imaginative at the moment. It's nothing. I don't think there's a great deal real on that because there's so much to discuss about that intelligence. But the thing you need to know is that this is what's being tried. So, I hate to go on about Kissinger, but, would you really want to load, or Netanyahu, would you really like to immortalise, the energy, the feelings, the mental, the speeches, the thoughts of people like that? I mean, I'm biased, obviously, because I think, no, I wouldn't. Thank you very much. But some people may think it's a great idea.
Must be done.
Yeah. So I think we can see, there are potential good benefits, but I'm not going to focus on those today. There certainly can be some potential benefits with some AI systems. If I'm looking for some research example, and there's 1,000 books on this topic, if they've all been digitized, I can do a search on the books. The biggest problem, of course, is with a bias, and that's a really big one, and that is being shown by one of the GPT software, and you put in a question, and it gives you completely biased. I think one I was reading, stupidly I didn't save it. I think it was about the COVID vaccines or something, and it was giving the government mainstream view of things like that. Yeah, we could say the same about net zero, absolute zero, carbon dioxide, couldn't we? We say exactly the same thing. The danger is bias, either from the developer or the data. If the systems can't get access to fully representative data, then they can't give fully representative answer, even without any human involvement in that. And that's where the thing with Robert Epstein and Google comes in, doesn't it? Because it's keeping that data from us. And that also leads to discrimination in all sorts of ways in society, etc. Yeah, there are some jobs that are going to be lost, possibly, but there's also some that don't. Appreciate you can't read this. This, again, is from World Economic Forum. It's mostly vocational. It does actually mention education teachers, but heavy truck and bus drivers, well, is that true anymore? With autonomous vehicles coming along? Probably not, actually. But things like mechanics and building, there may be somewhere there could be some of that that's affected. But this is the list of ones they think can't be affected. What I'll do is I'll put all my slides with Belle, and if anybody wants to get them, just contact Belle and she can give you a PDF of those slides. Yeah. So where else do we go? Oh, unintended consequences. Well, I mentioned about the porn. Why do they make most robots like attractive-looking young women? Most of them, aren't they? Or hunky guys. Are they fully functional? I don't know. I've not tried. Yet. And privacy and security. I mean, that's the obvious one, isn't it? Hacking and misuse is going to be rife, particularly if it's all done by Wi-Fi. One thing about wires is they are more secure than any form of Wi-Fi. And we've heard of predictive policing in the past, haven't we? But this is going to give an awful lot more information. Think of that SEL thing we were talking about with that cradle-to-grave monitoring a few minutes ago. That would allow, we think this person is developing the wrong way. They're going to commit a crime. What are they going to do? Are they going to lock them up? Re-educate them? Still more questions than answers, I think, in this. Military and autonomous weapons is the obvious one. You can... Directed energy weapons are real. Absolutely. Make no sense. So if they say to, like, the F-16 finally does go fully AI, or a drone, put the shooting train, like all this thing in Gaza, the first thing I heard from some of the ex-IDF military people who have been monitoring that fence said, there's no way anything could go through that fence because it's all AI controlled rifles and guns, and sensors. So even if a mouse hit the wire, a sensor that would set off an AI targeted machine gun fire, and it wouldn't go anywhere. So, and that's the, let's say, retired or ex-IDF people themselves saying that. What about the dangers of this? Well, I probably covered quite a few of those as we were talking through, didn't I? Definitely the technology is a long, long way to go before that's achieved, particularly the digital immortality bit of it. Motivation, yeah, who's building these things? What's the motivation they're given to it? Unintended consequences, just list is endless. And of course the self-selection bias, so if we load certain people up onto the cloud and then we're using their thought processes to make decisions in the current time, then we're just going to keep making the same mistakes again. I mean, I know we've got a tendency to do that anyway, haven't we? Because we forget about history. And maybe that's partly because the history is written by the victors, so we don't learn what the real history is, but that's another question. So it all comes back to this. You see the importance of this digital ID and why it's being pushed so much ever since, as I say, Tony Blair came in. And again, it shows you all these things that they are putting in. Again, that was from, I don't think that was from WEF, World Economic Forum, but it was from one of their partner organisations, that diagram. They're creating all these diagrams. So, as we wind up, I thought we'd have a quick look at what's the key drivers that we can see so far. And certainly net zero is one of them, isn't it? This next year, we are now in a climate emergency. We started off with global warming. When what was happening didn't match the models, we changed it to climate change. And when what's happened didn't match the models, we changed it to a global emergency, climate emergency now. Extinction Rebellion must be mentioned, of course. Gail Bradbrook is one of the founders of Extinction Rebellion. So yeah, you thought I'd put up Greta, didn't you, there? No, I stayed more to home. And she is a trained scientist, in actual fact, so she must really know what's going on. So I wonder sometimes. Net absolute zero, talking about that. Yeah, Ralph sitting in the back there is expert on talking about that and all the implications of that. And did any of you here see his talk, come to his talk the other day? Yeah, lots of people, yeah. Yeah, I see you're famous, Ralph. And we're saying technology, this is why we're going to technology, because we can use technology to save us in this net zero, absolute zero thing that's coming. And 5G is one of their crucial elements in how they're saying we're going to do this. They argue that in my other talk, I threw a slide. Pretty good, eh?
Very good.
Only got to cover the last slide. Pretty good. No electricity. It's one of the crucial elements in it, and I show you how the tech companies, the Ericssons, the Nokias, and things are saying, we can save the world, with our technology. As I say, good luck. How green is your satellite? Yes. We're gonna, remember those satellites, which are not big. I'm told they're the size of a small fridge, but they need replacing every few years. 5 years, I think, 5 to 10 years maximum up there. So then you're going to send so as soon as you've finished putting up 1 million, you're already, some of them are all going to be 5 years old, aren't they? Can you actually ever achieve getting 1 million satellites up in the sky anyway? Where are we going to go? We need to take over, guys and gals. We really need to take over. And productivity growth. I don't understand why they go on so much about productivity growth and all the things. You'd think they'd be saying, well, we're generating all this electricity. You think they'd be saying almost the opposite. But every article I read, in the World Economic Forum website, they're always talking about productivity, increasing productivity, getting more out of you. And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. But I'm obviously diminished in in human intelligence to go somewhere. So that's all I want to say today. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say today. You can contact me through Bell, anybody local, if you do want to have a chat with me or come and talk somewhere else. I have spoken here and in Shaftesbury, a short one in Shaftesbury. So yeah, I'm available to come. And there is a website, there's some information on the website. You can even see Ralph's talk in Glastonbury, 30-minute talk, which, as I was saying to him the other day, is a really concise way that he knocks down in 30 minutes only. So it's not a long time to waste in your life, is it? So that's it from me. You can ask a question. If you shout it, because I am a little bit
depressed by the end of this.
Is it what?
Rather than be depressed by the end of this.
I get told that a lot.
Okay, pivotal to this is what are we going to do with it? The sting in all of this is what's used with how the data is used. So it's down to whether or not we allow digital identity.
Yes.
So I quite like the idea of certain things being helped in this new technology for people, medical or whatever. But if you take out all the ID from it, it's harmless. So, who is responsible?
Yeah,
who is responsible for it, and who, as we as normal people, can kick back on?
Yeah.
And galvanise ourselves, and we say no.
Yeah, yeah. Digital identity is key, as I think probably made quite clear here. And also, the other thing is the physicality, the masts.
Of course.
So,
who's running all of this?
Who's
running all of this? Who's got the portfolio for a digital identity? You said Tony Blair was pushing it. Who else is actually standing up when? I know at one point there was a minister trying to do something with ID, but who do we go to?
Well, there are groups doing the stopping the masts from going up. That's one thing. But the rest of it, it's not. The trouble is, you see, we're not organised.
Yeah, it's not about us. It's about who are they appointed
who are they?
to roll it to us.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. You talk to different people and say there's levels of people above our governments that are controlling what they're doing.
But they have to push it through our government.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, you've got as good an idea as I have, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah.
Ian, would you mind if I add to
Yeah, come on, Mark.
I'm going to be talking later about media, but I can answer that question. At the moment, the EU have already passed legislation to bring in digital identities compulsory across Europe.
Yeah.
Same in America. And the big danger over all of that is the WHO, the World Health Organization, which is our government have actually been helping to drive it. But from December the 1st, this December the 1st, that's the last date that a government can withdraw from the next WHO agreement. Now what that includes is a new pandemic preparedness treaty and also amendments to the international health regulations. And amongst that, it takes away any sovereignty our government have got on any decisions about pandemic treatments, mandated injections, and also it will include a digital passport. So the answer is, it is not our government. They've allowed it to go above it, and it's all being driven by three things: the United Nations Agenda 2030, the WHO Pandemic Treaty, and the World Economic Forum. All three of which are funded by predominantly by commercial interests or NGOs like the Gates Foundation and particularly Rockefeller. You can, as Sandy will show you, Rockefeller you can trace all the way back to the 30s. So it is not a government. Our government have laid down and had the tummy tickled, actually. They're not fighting for us. And a change of government will make no difference whatsoever, because Starmer has already said, when asked the question, who do you prefer, Westminster or Davos? He said Davos because it gets things done.
Even if you don't like it.
Can I just raise a point about that? the WHO Treaty, there was a petition that had 57,000 signatures saying that to come out of the WHO Treaty. And before the petition was entered, the government put a statement underneath that saying that we will not be leaving the treaty. So that's before the petition has even ended, which shows that petitions don't work, it doesn't make any difference, they will just ignore it.
Yeah.
And that was, I saw that yesterday, I think.
Yeah, you're getting off a little bit
Yeah,
off
sorry,
my subject.
sorry.
It's probably more Mark's field, but
What can us mere mortals do today or tomorrow in real terms, would you say, Ian?
I don't know the answer actually.
yeah.
I don't.
I mean, that is the difficulty. What? Because we keep. I mean, I write loads to different councils, you know, about the illegality in some of these planning applications. You know, they're submitting applications from a company that doesn't exist, that was dissolved in 2015. They're writing a certificate that this is safe, again, with a company that hasn't existed for a decade or more. And I write and point that out to them, as do other people. And the big thing they all, several of them are doing at the moment, is wriggling like hell to get out of it. But we're going to track them down, I think, on that. But that will only be to do with the masks and the physicality. This lady said, she pointed out, yeah, we need to get the digital ID idea off the agenda.
There is something that can be done. It really requires concerted action. And I went on one of the big marches in London when they started child vaccination, and I realised it's just nothing but a huge wank in a vacuum, because they can completely shut it down. But the energy and the sense of are we making progress is there, so it's dissipated. And even meetings like this, unfortunately, we're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
The only thing that I've come across that will genuinely stop them is if we stop funding them.
Yeah.
And you'll have heard Chris Coverdale's ideas.
Yeah.
Those of you who haven't, and we're in the middle of getting some interesting from HMRC.
Yeah.
And it's quite a significant step. You've got to step. You know, they've turned up at our doorstep already, and so on. But we've placed, just for those of you who don't know the sort of the workaround. You place your tax or whatever tax you owe. Might be in our case it's a capital gains thing, so it's fairly substantial. You place it in a trust, and the trustees are not to release that unless that payment is legal. Now, it's illegal to fund an organisation that's either involved in genocide or terrorism or illegal medical experiments, for instance, and as far as I can tell, it's pretty open and shut.
Yes.
It's actually illegal to pay them taxes, and by local and by international law, it's illegal. It's illegal to fund that, and so.
Bring the statute to the International Criminal Court.
Chris Coverdale's information, and so.
And all the UN Security Council treaties and Nuremberg Code.
So I mean, what we can say
all these illegal wars for the last.
But the ball actually is in
our court to do that.
With where we're at the moment is the ball's actually in their court, because all they need to do. We're not saying whether or not that is the case. Could they please provide evidence that that is not the case, so that our trustee can then release those funds to be paid. We just don't want to break the law in doing that.
Yes.
And then they've also, people tried withholding a portion of their tax, saying 10% goes to military, for military use. So I withhold that 10%. And the government said, no, you can't do that because it all goes into one fund. So now you can use that back at them and say, I can't distinguish. This goes into this one fund from which payments are made to the Middle East now, or to Ukraine or whatever. Sorry, I'm going on, but
I think it's
that's
good point.
just.
I mean,
that
it
is
certainly
something you
gives,
can
it certainly
really
gives
do.
people something to look at and investigate. I think you're absolutely spot on.